Welcome to Quick Speak the English podcast that helps you gain confidence and fluency, for real-world conversations.
Absolutely.
And today we're tackling a topic that can be a challenge, especially for those who are more on the introverted side,
Yeah.
networking.
Yes. But instead of viewing networking as, like a daunting task, let's reframe it as an opportunity to build meaningful connections.
Okay.
Especially in the online world, there are specific advantages for those who prefer a more thoughtful approach.
That's a great point.
Mhm.
We often hear about the importance of networking, but what practical steps can we take, especially online, to make those connections?
Well, think of it like this. Every interaction is a chance to learn and grow. Even before you engage with someone online, you can set yourself up for success by being prepared.
Prepared.
Yeah.
So it's more than just scrolling through social media and hoping for the best.
Exactly. Let's say you come across someone's profile on LinkedIn, and you see they've recently worked on a project that really interests you. Instead of just sending a generic connection request, you can take a few minutes to research their background and the specifics of that project. Then when you do reach out, you can ask a thoughtful question that demonstrates your genuine interest.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like showing up to a party, having actually read the host's book beforehand, instead of just grabbing a drink and making small talk.
Yeah.
You're more likely to have a stimulating conversation.
Precisely. And that same principle applies to online interactions. When you take the time to prepare, you not only feel more confident,
Right.
but you also signal to the other person that you value their time and expertise.
So preparation is key. But once we're in a conversation, how can we ensure we're really connecting with the other person, not just going through the motions?
That's where active listening comes in. It's more than just hearing the words someone is saying.
Okay.
It's about demonstrating your engagement through nonverbal cues, thoughtful questions, and even well-placed silences.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
How do we translate those nonverbal cues to the online world? We're not exactly making eye contact through a computer screen.
True, but there's still ways to convey your attention. Imagine you're having a video call with someone. Simple actions like nodding in agreement or tilting your head to show you're considering their point can make a big difference.
And what about those silences you mentioned? I'll admit, I often feel this urge to fill every gap in a conversation, especially online.
That's a common feeling, but silence can actually be a powerful tool. It allows both you and the other person to reflect on what's been said and formulate your thoughts. Don't be afraid to embrace those pauses.
It's almost like giving yourself permission to breathe in a conversation. Too often we rush to fill the space and we lose those opportunities for deeper connection.
Exactly. Now let's talk about another important aspect of online communication, turning those initial exchanges into more meaningful conversations. One way to do that is by shifting from small talk to what we might call big talk.
Big talk.
Yeah.
I like that. But how do we make that shift? How do we go beyond talking about the weather or the latest headlines?
It's about finding those threads that connect seemingly casual topics to deeper interests or shared values. For example, let's say you're chatting with someone online and they mention they're an avid photographer. Instead of just saying, oh, that's cool, you could ask a question like, what draws you to photography? What kinds of stories do you try to capture through your lens?
That's a great example. It shows that you're genuinely interested in learning more about the person behind the profile, not just exchanging pleasantries.
And that genuine interest is the key to building authentic connections. When you approach conversations with curiosity and a willingness to delve deeper, you open up possibilities for learning, collaboration, and even friendship.
This is already shifting my perspective on online networking. Instead of dreading those interactions, I'm starting to see them as opportunities to engage with interesting people and learn new things.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
And speaking of opportunities, let's talk about a specific advantage that introverts often have when it comes to online communication.
Okay.
They tend to excel in the written word.
That makes sense. Introverts are often known for being reflective and thoughtful, and those qualities can really shine through in writing.
Exactly. Think about platforms like LinkedIn or even industry-specific forums.
Okay.
These online spaces allow introverts to carefully craft their messages, articulate their thoughts, and contribute to conversations in a way that feels comfortable and authentic.
It's almost like having a superpower. Instead of feeling pressured to come up with brilliant remarks on the spot, introverts can take their time, do their research, and present themselves in a way that truly reflects their expertise and personality.
Precisely. And that ability to communicate effectively in writing can open doors to all sorts of opportunities, from landing dream jobs to building a following as a thought leader.
So we've talked about the importance of preparation, active listening, shifting from small talk to big talk, and harnessing the power of written communication. What else can we do to enhance our online networking skills, especially for those of us who might not be naturally outgoing?
Well, one often overlooked aspect of building connections is the power of empathy.
Empathy. How does that translate to the online world?
It's about paying attention to the subtle cues in someone's messages or posts and responding in a way that shows you understand and care about their perspective. For example, let's say someone mentions feeling overwhelmed by a recent project. Instead of just offering generic advice, you could say something like, I can only imagine how demanding that project must have been. What strategies did you use to stay focused and manage your time?
That's a great example. It's about acknowledging their experience and showing that you're genuinely trying to connect with them on a human level.
Exactly. And that human connection is what separates truly meaningful interactions from superficial exchanges. When you approach online networking with empathy and a genuine desire to understand others, you create a foundation for trust and mutual respect.
This is all so helpful. I'm already starting to see online networking in a new light. It's not about being the loudest voice or having the most connections. It's about building authentic relationships and contributing to conversations in a way that feels true to myself.
And that's the beauty of online networking. It allows you to connect with people from all over the world who share your interests and values, regardless of your personality type or communication style.
I'm excited to explore these strategies further and see how I can apply them to my own online interactions. Now, I know we have a lot more to cover on this topic, so stay tuned.
We'll be back soon to delve deeper into specific platforms and tactics that can help you make the most of your online networking journey. Welcome back to QuickSpeak.
We're continuing our conversation about online networking for introverts.
In this part, we'll focus on making the most of social media without draining your energy.
Yes, we'll explore some smart tactics for LinkedIn, Twitter, or X as it's now called, and even niche forums.
Let's start with LinkedIn, a platform where introverts can truly shine.
Okay.
It's all about building professional connections, which can feel less intimidating online.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. One effective strategy is joining niche groups related to your industry or areas of interest.
Okay, so you're saying instead of just trying to connect with everyone,
Right.
find those smaller groups.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This creates a smaller, more focused space to connect with like-minded individuals.
That makes sense.
You can participate in discussions, share your insights, and even ask questions.
And you don't feel like you have to be on all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great way to build your reputation as a thought leader without feeling like you have to shout from the rooftops.
That's a good point.
And don't underestimate the power of LinkedIn's people also viewed feature.
Oh yeah, that's the one that suggests other professionals based on someone you viewed.
Exactly. If you find someone you admire or who works in a field you're intrigued by, check out who else LinkedIn recommends.
It's like a shortcut
Yeah.
to finding more people you might want to connect with.
Now let's move on to Twitter, or X, which can feel a bit more fast-paced.
Yeah, I have to say Twitter sometimes makes me feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose.
I understand. But there are ways to make it work for you, even if you're not a constant tweeter.
Tell me more. I'm always looking for ways to make social media less overwhelming.
One strategy is to curate lists of industry leaders, organizations, or publications you find valuable.
So instead of trying to follow everyone and everything,
Right.
I can create smaller, more focused feeds.
Exactly. This helps you cut through the noise and focus on the content that's most relevant to you.
That makes a lot of sense.
And what about actually engaging with people on Twitter? Any tips for that?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it can be a little intimidating,
It can.
especially for us introverts.
Yeah, well, one way to ease into the conversation is to participate in weekly Twitter chats.
Oh, yeah, those are the ones organized around a specific hashtag, right?
Right.
Like hashtag Marketing Monday or hashtag Women in Tech.
Exactly. They provide a structured way to connect with others interested in the same topics.
So you can dip your toe in the water
Yes,
a little bit.
you can share your thoughts, ask questions, and build relationships without feeling like you have to be constantly tweeting.
Yeah, that feels much more manageable.
Right.
It takes the pressure off of having to be on all the time.
And if real-time participation feels a bit too much, you can always catch up on the chat later and retweet or reply to things that resonate with you.
Okay.
Now let's explore another online space that can be particularly well-suited for introverts, niche forums.
Forums, like those online communities dedicated to specific topics.
Exactly. Think of sites like Reddit or Quora, where people gather to discuss everything from technology to travel to personal finance.
I see where you're going with this. It's a great way to connect with people who share your interests and expertise.
And you can contribute meaningfully by answering questions, sharing your knowledge, and even starting discussions.
Right, it's kind of low-key.
Yeah,
You're not the center of attention, but you're still participating.
exactly.
Okay.
Now let's talk about some low-energy engagement hacks that can help you make the most of social media without draining your energy.
I love the sound of that. Social media can be so exhausting sometimes.
One of my favorite strategies is batch content creation.
Batch content creation. Tell me more.
Instead of feeling like you have to be constantly creating and posting, set aside a couple of hours each week to brainstorm ideas, write posts, and schedule them in advance.
So I can essentially create a week's worth of social media content in one go.
Exactly. It takes the pressure off of having to come up with something brilliant on the spot every day.
That's a great idea.
And it allows you to be more intentional about the content you're sharing.
I like that.
Another low-energy hack is silent participation.
Silent participation.
That
That sounds intriguing.
It's about engaging with content in a way that feels comfortable for you. You don't always have to comment or like something publicly to find it valuable.
So I can bookmark interesting posts, save articles to read later, or even just jot down ideas inspired by what I'm seeing.
Exactly. It's a way to absorb information and make mental connections without feeling pressured to perform.
Yeah. And if I do want to engage more actively, I can always circle back later when I have the time and energy.
Now, for those who find lengthy writing tasks daunting,
Yes.
how about we explore the world of micro-contributions?
Micro-contributions. That sounds manageable.
It's about sharing valuable insights in a concise and digestible way.
So instead of writing a lengthy blog post, I could share a key takeaway from an industry report in a tweet or LinkedIn post.
Exactly. You can also share interesting statistics, thought-provoking quotes, or links to articles with a brief summary of why you found them valuable.
It's a way to add value to the conversation without spending hours crafting a long-form piece.
Now let's shift our focus to another important aspect of your online presence, your profile.
Okay, I'll admit my LinkedIn profile could use some work.
Okay.
Any tips on making it stand out?
Let's start with your headline. Instead of simply stating your job title, think about how you can highlight a specific skill or benefit you offer.
So instead of marketing manager, I could say something like marketing strategist, helping businesses grow through creative campaigns.
Exactly. It's more engaging and gives people a clear understanding of what you bring to the table.
Makes sense.
And what about the About section? I always struggle with that one.
Me too. I never know what to say.
Think of it as an opportunity to tell your story in a way that resonates with your target audience.
Instead of just listing my achievements, I should focus on the problems I solve and the value I create.
Precisely. For example, instead of saying, I have 10 years of experience in software development, you could say, I help companies streamline their operations and increase efficiency through innovative software solutions.
That's much more compelling.
Yeah.
It positions me as a problem solver, not just a list of skills.
Remember, your profile is your digital first impression. Make it count.
This is all so helpful. I'm starting to feel much more confident about putting my best foot forward online.
And remember, it's an ongoing process. You can always tweak and refine your profiles as you evolve and grow.
So we've covered a lot of ground when it comes to social media strategies for introverts.
But there's one more crucial aspect we need to address: the follow-up.
Ah, yes, the follow-up. I'll admit, this is where I often stumble.
I understand. It can
Yeah.
feel daunting, but it's an essential part of building lasting connections.
So what are some strategies that can make follow-up feel less scary?
Well, there's a general rule of thumb, the 24-48-hour rule.
The 24-48-hour rule. Tell me more.
It means that ideally you should send a follow-up message within 24 to 48 hours of meeting someone, attending an event, or having a conversation online.
Okay.
This helps you stay top of mind and shows that you're genuinely interested in continuing the conversation.
Right, because otherwise people forget.
Exactly. Now, what should you actually say in a follow-up message?
That's the part I always struggle with.
Personalization is key. Reference something specific from your conversation to show that you were paying attention.
So, for example, if I had a great conversation with someone about their work in artificial intelligence, I could say something like, it was fascinating to hear about your work in AI, especially your insights on the ethical implications of the technology.
Perfect. And then you can use this as a springboard to ask a question or suggest a next step.
Like, I don't want to be too pushy.
You could say something like, would you be open to a quick call sometime next week to continue our conversation? Or, I'm doing some research on AI and would love to pick your brain for a few minutes. Would you be available for a brief chat?
Okay, those feel much more approachable. It's about inviting further interaction without being overly demanding.
Now, what if you're not quite ready to schedule a call or meeting? there are still plenty of ways to maintain those connections in a more low-key way.
Yeah, like low-pressure touch points.
Exactly.
I like that.
One simple but effective strategy is content sharing. When you come across an article, video, or podcast that you think someone in your network might find interesting, send it their way with a brief note explaining why you thought of them.
Something like, this article on the latest developments in AI reminded me of our conversation. I thought you might find it insightful.
Exactly. It's a thoughtful way to stay on their radar and show that you're still thinking about them.
I like it.
Another low-pressure touch point is recognizing someone's milestones.
Like a work anniversary, a promotion, or the launch of a new project.
Yes, it's a great way to show that you're paying attention and that you genuinely care about their success.
It's the little things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can leave a comment on their LinkedIn post, send a congratulatory email, or even just a quick direct message.
These are all great ideas. They feel much more authentic and less transactional than traditional networking.
And speaking of making networking feel less daunting, have you ever considered using templates?
Templates? You mean like pre-written messages?
Exactly. Creating reusable scripts for common scenarios can be a game changer. It reduces decision fatigue and makes online networking feel much less overwhelming.
So, for example, I could have a template for following up after attending a webinar or conference.
Exactly. You could have something like this. It was great connecting with you at Event Name. I particularly enjoyed your insights on topic. Would you be open to connecting on LinkedIn to continue the conversation?
And I could adapt it for different events and conversations.
You can also have templates for re-engagement messages. You know those times when you want to reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while?
Yeah, re-engagement messages can be tricky. What's a good way to approach those?
You could try something like this. Hi, Naeem. I was just thinking about our conversation a while back about topic. I recently achievement project, and it reminded me of your advice on topic. Thank you for the guidance.
That's a great way to reconnect and show that I valued their input.
And it might even spark a new conversation or collaboration.
This has been so helpful.
Yeah.
I'm feeling much more equipped to handle the follow-up phase of online networking.
Remember, follow-up is all about nurturing relationships and building connections over time.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this episode, from social media strategies to follow-up tips.
But before we wrap up part 2, I want to touch on something that's crucial for introverts managing your energy.
Welcome back to Quick Speak.
We're wrapping up our 3-part series on online networking for introverts.
And in this final part, we're going to explore how to turn those online connections into something more, something a little deeper.
Yeah, we'll delve into strategies for nurturing relationships, collaborating effectively, and even finding mentors or collaborators online.
It's all about moving beyond those initial connections and building a network that truly supports your goals.
So let's start with the art of nurturing relationships online.
Okay.
It's something that introverts often excel at.
Why is that?
Well, introverts tend to be thoughtful communicators.
Right.
They take the time to listen, understand, and respond in a genuine way.
That makes sense. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about building those one-on-one connections.
Exactly. And online platforms provide a great space for those kinds of interactions. You can have in-depth conversations, share resources, and offer support in a way that feels comfortable for you.
So how do we go about nurturing those relationships online? What are some practical tips?
Well, one strategy is to be a generous giver.
A generous giver. What does that mean?
It means sharing your knowledge, insights, and resources freely.
Okay.
Think about the people in your network. What are their challenges? What are their interests? How can you help them?
So if I know someone is struggling with a particular marketing strategy,
Right.
I could share an article or a podcast that I found helpful.
Exactly. Or if someone is looking for a specific type of software, you could offer a recommendation based on your experience.
And it's not about expecting something back.
Right. It's not tit for tat.
Right.
It's about being helpful and supportive without expecting anything in return.
That's a good point.
Precisely. And that kind of generosity often comes back to you tenfold. When you give freely, people are more likely to reciprocate and offer their support when you need it.
It creates a positive cycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another important aspect of nurturing relationships online is to be genuinely curious about the people in your network.
Curious.
Mm-hmm.
How do we show that curiosity online?
Ask questions. Engage in conversations. Show that you're interested in their work, their passions, and their lives outside of work.
So instead of just liking their posts,
Right.
I could take a moment to comment and ask a follow-up question.
Exactly. Or you could send them a direct message to learn more about a project they're working on or a challenge they're facing.
It's about going beyond the surface level
Yeah.
and building those deeper connections.
Now let's talk about online collaboration. It's something that can be incredibly rewarding both personally and professionally.
But it can also be a bit daunting. especially for introverts who might prefer to work independently.
That's true. But online collaboration doesn't have to be overwhelming. There are ways to approach it in a way that feels comfortable and productive.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are your tips for successful online collaboration?
Well, one important factor is clear communication. Make sure everyone involved understands the goals, the roles, and the expectations.
So before we even start working together,
Right.
we should have a conversation about who's responsible for what and what we're hoping to achieve.
Exactly. And it's helpful to establish clear channels of communication.
Right.
Are we using email, project management software, video conferencing?
It's all about setting ourselves up for success from the start.
Another key to successful online collaboration is to embrace the diversity of perspectives.
Diversity of perspectives. What do you mean by that?
It means recognizing that everyone brings their unique skills, experiences, and ideas to the table.
And that can be a powerful thing, right?
Yes.
When we combine those different perspectives, we can come up with more creative and innovative solutions.
Exactly. So encourage everyone to share their thoughts, even if they're different from your own.
Okay.
Be open to new ideas and be willing to challenge your own assumptions.
It's about creating a collaborative environment where everyone feels comfortable speaking up and sharing their ideas.
Now let's talk about finding mentors and collaborators online.
Okay.
It's something that can be incredibly valuable, especially for introverts who might not feel comfortable approaching people in person.
Right. I mean, the internet can be a great equalizer, can it?
Yeah.
It allows us to connect with people from all over the world who we might never have met otherwise.
Exactly. So where do we start? How do we find those mentors and collaborators online?
That's the question. I'm always looking for ways to expand my network and connect with people who can help me grow.
Well, one strategy is to be active in online communities related to your interests or your field.
So joining LinkedIn groups, participating in Twitter chats, or even contributing to niche forums.
Exactly. Those are all great ways to meet people who share your passions and who might be willing to share their knowledge or collaborate on projects.
It's about putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
making those connections.
Another strategy is to reach out to people whose work you admire.
So if I'm a budding writer
Yeah.
and I love someone's blog,
Yeah.
I could send them a message to let them know how much I enjoy their writing,
Exactly. You could even ask if they offer any mentoring or coaching services.
or if they'd be open to collaborating on a project sometime in the future.
Remember, the worst they can say is no.
Right.
And you might be surprised by how many people are willing to help.
It's all about taking that first step and reaching out.
Now, once you've made those connections, how do you keep those relationships going?
That's a great question. I'm always looking for ways to stay in touch with people without feeling like I'm being too pushy.
Well, one strategy is to be consistent with your communication.
Consistent.
Yeah.
What does that mean in practice?
It means staying on people's radar without being overwhelming.
Okay.
You could send a quick message once a month or once a quarter just to check in and see how they're doing.
Just a little, hello,
Yeah.
how are you?
Or share an article or a resource that you think they might find valuable.
Right. It's about staying top of mind without bombarding them with messages.
Another way to stay connected is to support their work,
Okay.
like sharing their blog posts on social media, leaving thoughtful comments, or even recommending their services to others.
It's about being an active and engaged member of their online community.
And those small gestures can go a long way in building strong and lasting relationships.
This has been such a valuable conversation. I'm feeling much more confident about building and nurturing my online network.
Remember, networking is a journey, not a destination. It's about making those connections, building those relationships, and supporting each other along the way.
And it's something that can be incredibly rewarding both personally and professionally.
That's right. So embrace the power of online networking and watch your connections flourish.
This has been a truly insightful look at online networking, especially for those of us who are a bit more introverted.
We've covered a lot of ground, but we hope you've gained some valuable strategies for building meaningful connections online.
And remember, even small steps can lead to big results when it comes to networking.
Be sure to visit our website mentioned in the description for additional resources like vocabulary lists and exercises related to today's episode.
And don't forget to subscribe to Quick Speak for more tips and strategies to help you improve your English communication skills.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.